First Lumineth battle experience, First Blood. Hello, this is Chris from 60 Goblins and 1 Brush, and last weekend I drew First Blood, my first Lumineth battle, in this case against my friend Franz and his Beasts of Chaos Dragon Ogre heavy army. Recently I made a video about the Games Workshop list of strongest armies, of most successful armies in tournaments, and the Lumineth were not on the list because they're too new. So we don't know exactly how strong they are. There were all kinds of thoughts that they were overpowered or too weak or whatever. They're strong. They're very strong. I can say this. They're in the uppermost third of the Age of Sigmar armies in strength. So what I played was Alarith this time. Next time I will play Teclis, but this time I played Alarith heavy, and I must say I mostly won the game. It was close because Beasts of Chaos are not a very strong army, but the way Franz played them was very good, very well concocted and planned. And if you have a lot of Dragon Ogres, it's something. So the main reason why I won the game in the end was because the Mountain Spirits are super tough. I think they're even too cheap, especially a Valinor. They're almost unkillable if you put a Stone Mage next to them. And they deal damage like hell. 5 damage per hit with those hammers. That's brutal. The other reason why I won is because you had to put heroes next to the objectives, or on the objectives, which was in favor of my army, because Franz only had 2 heroes, 2 Dragon Ogre Shoggoths, and I had a Valinor, 2 Stone Mages, and a Cavalier. And once you put a castle of a Spirit of the Mountains, a Stone Mage, and 10 Stone Guard on an objective, it's like the Fire Slayers. You can't get rid of them anymore. I also played Eltharion, but my opponent managed to kill him very quickly. He had 2 cockatrices, and one of them managed its petrifying gaze and gave Eltharion 5 mortal wounds. Eltharion is almost unkillable unless you can deal mortal wounds. So he had only 2 wounds left, and then 3 Dragon Ogres crashed into him, and they have 18 attacks together, and I couldn't save all of them with my 3+ ethereal save. So he died. The first person who died basically was Eltharion. But the Stone Guard and the Mountain Spirits, especially a Valinor, very, very tough. Very powerful. It's about the same power as Fire Slayers and Cities of Sigmar, so very high up on the list. Next, I tried out the Sentinels. I really wanted to try them out, and they're very good. But you really have to keep them at 30 inches distance. Once you move them forward, if you move them forward to 18 inches, they get +1 to hit and 1 rend. But once you move them forward, they're chargeable, and the Dragon Ogres are fast, so they manage to charge them and destroy them. That was a big mistake. I should have kept them in the back, and not doing that might have cost me the game if it were not for the Stone Guard and the Mountain Spirits. We know from other games that a Valinor can kill just about anyone. You can kill him with mortal wounds also, but otherwise he can kill anyone, including Archaon. I think he can cause up to 39 damage with his hammers and hooves, but that's not all. He has the Guardian of Hysh, 12 inches -1 to hit bubble. So everyone who is within 12 inches, every enemy within 12 inches of him has -1 to hit. That's insane. Then the Geomantic Blast is only 1 attack, but if you roll well, which I managed towards the end of the game several times. It's also brutal. And while the Stone Mage gives him the ability that he will not be bracketed, that he will always be at full power, Valinor gives the Stone Mage a command point free of charge, respectively a free command ability. And so on. The synergies in the Lumineth army are very important, but there are also so many synergies, it works really well. Everything very well thought out. The Ether Quartz didn't play such a role in the game. I used it in the first round, and the second and third I forgot. But the thing with Ymetrica, of course, when you play Alarith, you play Ymetrica, and I also did. The thing with Ymetrica is Alarith units ignore -2 rend, -1 and -2, which basically takes the power out of many enemies. That's really mean. And the other thing is, of course, the lightning reactions rule. One of the allegiance abilities of the Lumineth, that in the combat phase you strike with 2 units instead of 1 before it's your enemy's turn again. And in the beginning, in the first round, it wasn't such a big deal, but afterwards it was just horrible. I could always, for example, strike with my 2 mountain spirits first. As allies, France had 3 Man Crusher Gargants, and yeah, they ate a few of my Stone Guard and also my Alarith Stone Mage. That was fun, but then I crushed them. Basically only with the Mountain Spirit. I mean, the Stone Guard also did a little bit of damage, but mostly that one Mountain Spirit killed all 3 Man Crusher Gargants. Lastly, the spells. The spells are really good. I had 2 Stone Mages and 1 Cathalar. And many of the really good spells are quite cheap. So there are a lot of buffing your own units and debuffing your enemy's units, and those spells work really well. For example, there are 2 spells that make it almost impossible for your enemies to move or do anything. So also he cannot get to an objective, which is of course crucial to win the game. And my 20 archers, I had them in 2 groups of 10 instead of 1 group of 20, because then you have 1 more spellcaster. Every archer unit or every Lumineth unit, the sentinels, the wardens and so on, there are wizards. The High Warden is a wizard as long as there are 5 or at least 5 models left. And they get their own spell to increase the mortal wounds output from 6+ to 5+, which is really easy to get through. 5, I think, but I didn't manage. No, 6. You have to roll a 6, which I either didn't manage to roll or it was dispelled. I'm not sure, unbound. So my archers only had mortal wounds on a 6, but they were still pretty devastating. Only 20 archers, I think that's the minimum that makes sense, 20 archers. 30 or 40 are better, of course, but 20 is the minimum. And if you have them in 2 groups of 10, you have 2 additional spellcasters, because they can do their own spell, Power of Heish, or one other spell from the Lore of Light. So the more spellcasters you have, the more units you have, the more spellcasters you have, and the more spellcasters you have, the more spells you can do, and the Power of Heish you can do as many times as you want. And then at some point your enemy won't have any wizards anymore to unbind and dispel your spells. Let us assume you take Teclis. He has 4 spells. Then a Cathalar or 2. She has 1, but in Zytric she has 2. So let's say 2 Cathalars. That's 4 spells. Teclis 4 spells and 8 spells. And then 4 units of Wardens and 4 units of Sentinels. 16 spells. Who can unbind all of this? So in summary, the Lumineth are powerful. I don't know if they can match with the Caradron Overlords or the Seraphon. I think so, but let's find out. But they're definitely in the upper third, and the Alarith are very powerful. I'm very excited to try out Teclis and a sorcery heavy army. I probably will take Zytrek. But playing the Alarith in Ymetrica was already quite something. I'm not sure if you can say overpowered, but close to it. We really thought about who could possibly win against such an army. Probably Fire Slayers, Aurochs, Ogres, I think. Otherwise, very difficult. The Ogres with the impact hits, that could work because it causes mortal wounds. So what do you think about the Lumineth? Do you have game experience already? Did you try them out already? Do you think they're strong or too weak? Did you try out Alarith and Ymetrica already? Please leave your experiences in the comments below. I think they're really fun to play. They're a beautiful army also. Most of them were not painted. I built them and base sprayed them, but most of the models were not painted, so that's why I don't show any pictures of the battle. But I think we can expect next year to have a point race for the mountain spirits. Maybe for the Stone Guard as well, but definitely the mountain spirits are definitely a Valinor is too cheap for 360 points. He is a real monster. As he should be. He's a walking mountain. But 360 might be a bit too generous. So if and when you play the Lumineth, take care that you don't forget your synergies. It's very important. And it's a very good thing to place a mountain spirit, a 10 stone guard unit and a stone mage together in one place. And keep them together and make sure that the stone mage survives. And keep your sentinels as far back as possible. Okay. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing and sharing the videos with your friends and joining me on Patreon, and see you soon.